Welcome to Next to Madison, a podcast to help you live your best life.
Welcome back to another fun and exciting episode of Next to Madison. I am your host, Madison Malloy. Yes, it is me again. This is episode 203. On this episode, I'm actually sitting down with a comedian and host of a podcast called That's My Time. But we talk a little bit about comedy, but we're primarily talking about his experience running for mayor of Albany and just the eye-opening corruption that he saw in politics, and just how to navigate that should you want to subject yourself to that, how he dealt with the haters, how he wanted to positively make an impact, and all the little things that go through trying to get into office. We talk about getting over the fear, the rigged political system, why term limits aren't a thing yet, all these really different things. Politics are very, very, very touchy these days. This is not a political segment one way or the other. We stay in the middle on the Next to Madison side. We like to just deliver the information, tell the story, and let our audience think for themselves. It's very, very important for me. But I think it's important that people kind of really hear his story of what it is like to run for office. It is not fun. I don't think I would do it after hearing these stories. But when you really want to make a difference, you sometimes have to throw your hat in the ring. So if you're looking to run for office, or you want to be entertained, or you want to hear this unbelievable story, and just how we can improve as a society and not lead more with love versus more with hate, and just why politics has become so crooked. So very in-depth interview, very interesting. Again, not political. We are in the middle and we let our guests think for themselves. So I hope you guys enjoy this very fascinating conversation with my friend Greg Aidala, and we will be right back after this brief message.
Hey, it's Madison Malloy. I'm excited to announce that my new book, Time to Lighten the Fuck Up, is now available online and in stores. You can pick up your copy today by going to Amazon or barnesandnoble.com. This new book is a humorous self-help guide to help you remove the obstacles that are holding you back so you can take things less seriously and live a more enjoyable life. I'm so excited for you to read it. Now back to the show.
All right, we are back with our amazing guests on this episode of Next to Madison. With us, we've got the comedian and the host of That's My Time podcast, Greg Aidala. How are you, my friend?
Hey, good, Madison. It's nice to see you. How's everything?
Oh, everything is great. It is.
Good, isn't it? Everyone's crushing it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know what? You take the good times and you flip it to the positive and the gratitude, and then you can see more opportunity at the end. So not every day is going to be the best day, but you can make it a great day.
That's right. I agree.
Yeah.
I do.
So you're a comedian. That's how we met.
Yes.
You're still doing comedy. You're primarily a clean comic, which is very challenging in itself.
Yeah, pretty much so. Yeah. So I started 22 years ago. And then 2 years in is when I transformed into producing shows, because I saw too much grossness out there on the road, like lies and, people. We've discussed this, you and I, in the past, about there's no real bar to get into comedy, right? So it's so it's like letting everyone in. And then I started producing shows, and that's what really I'd love to do. And then I launched my own touring show in 2006, the Brouhaha Comedy Showcase, which many of our friends have played. Mm-hmm. And that I toured that right until COVID. And then throughout those years with hosting came, keynote talks, came hosting charity events, fundraisers, emceeing of that nature. And then I got my first agent 13 years ago now. And that's what led into, film, TV, all that fun stuff that we get to be a part of.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it is more of a challenge to write clean. How do you kind of work that process? Or are you kind of a clean guy? See, my mind shifts to the naughtiness.
Yeah. Well, we're human, right? So I have that. I just know that look, you got standards and practices. If you ever want to get on TV, they're going to be like, clean it up. Most people that I know really aren't all that crazy blue, or I have on my show. There have been times to where there was this in upstate New York, there was this really, really nice golf club. I mean, really, really nice. And they had me for 3 years. And the first 2 years went great. The third year, they're like, we want you back. We have a request. Like, sure. They said, could you guys be a little bit more dirty?
Perfect.
Sure, if you want. I really don't know what, I can't really dirty up my stuff, but I can, get people on the show that will, suffice for you. And you know what I learned
and
early
you didn't
on,
think to call me? Whoa.
this is before we met. Actually, this is before we met. Yeah. And what was I going to say about that? Darn, made me lose my track, I thought.
Well, you're saying you
yeah.
couldn't really dirty it up, but you found people who could bring the film.
Yeah, that could do it, and they were happy with it. But it's I'll just cater to a show what anyone wants. And what I've learned early on is what I do is, when I'm approached by, if it's a corporate event or public, either they know me or they don't. And what I do is, what type of a show do you want? Blah, 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 blah. And then what I do is I forward them about 3 clips, late night clips from our friends' appearances on late night. And then I put the power to the people. Like, you guys choose. They choose throughout the office. And then when we show up, everyone's happy. So it's going to be a home run.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So, you give them what they want. That's the number
one
sales.
And how I learned to respect. I learned a lot. There was one of my good friends is Jesse Joyce. He's one of the head writers on Kimmel now. Okay. And he introduced me to the New York City scene in 20 years ago, this year, in 2003. And what built my reputation coming out of New York City was that I paid well. And everyone who performs on my show, even to the day, is paid in full before the show starts. And I do that for one of the big reasons. Yeah, it's psychological reasons, right? We've discussed this before. It's show business. It's a business. And a lot of people are just into the show. And if you do that, you're going to flounder. And you got to really treat it like a business. And also, as someone that's producing the show, I want time to relax and host a show and perform and just bring the room together. So I figure over the years, if that is off one's mind, the performers, then they're just going to give it their all. Just focus on the show. And it's really been a great recipe for success for my showcase.
That's great. No, it's a great way to be, right? And the fact that you have clean means you can work more corporate, and you can also dirty it up and all that stuff. Right. So did you ever have fear performing?
Oh, yeah. I can remember. Well, you should be, right? So in workshops that I've taught, and I'll do like one-on-one coaching now these days, but you should be a little bit nervous every time you're on stage, right? You should be. There should be that little bit of like the butterflies. And the way and everyone's done that, even back to Abraham Lincoln, who was a great orator, but got nervous as hell, before he spoke. I think it's natural, it's good, and it keeps you in line of what you're going to say, because I found so much over the years that people, men and women, do this in comedy, is they'll go up and they'll just shit on the stage. Like, they're not prepared for anything.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've done it myself.
Yeah, it's well, I'll tell you though. So all that said, there was one time, and this goes back to, I can remember the month. It was September of 2007. I can't remember the date, but it was a Saturday. I'll never forget this. It happened once in my life, and here it was. I think it was just after I had recently just opened for Colin Quinn the second time, and it was like a week or two after that, in September. I'll never forget. I was hosting my show. I go out through the curtains. I went blank.
Oof.
Completely blank. And I don't, I'm not a big drinker. I don't drink, actually. And I never drank before shows, but I went blank. And I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, holy shit. But what was coming out of my mouth was, and I finally, dialed in to hearing what I was saying. I was just talking with people in the audience.
Yeah.
And it went on for about 90 seconds to where I just went blank, but I was moving along with people, and then it snapped right back, my set list. So it was that was fearful. And you know, that I said, I'll never, because I didn't expect that to happen. It just happened under its own volition. I can't explain that, but I vowed to be very open about that and never let that happen again.
Yeah, sometimes you have to make the mistake to learn. And fear I think is not, it's not always a bad thing. It can propel you forward,
Mhm.
and to reduce the fear is to be prepared.
That's right. You can.
Fear is the unknown, but you're going to reduce the unknown if you're super prepared.
That's right. Yeah. 80% of life, or, I like to say 90% of life is just showing up.
Yeah.
And then if you're prepared, you've got, you'll be 95% successful. And then if you're prepared and you want to outdo your competition, healthy competition, you'll score 100. But you have to, but you're right. It's that fear, that's that motivator to get you to that point. I think there's healthy fear, definitely in this world, and especially with public speaking.
Oh yeah, it keeps you moving forward for
Oh
sure.
yeah,
Like a little bit of
100%.
fear is a good thing.
Yes,
But not letting it stop you. So fear
right.
to propel you forward, but not stop
Hmm.
you. So speaking of fear, you also went off and did something that most people are terrified of, which is you ran for public office.
I did in
That's
20.
crazy.
That's what a lot of people told me, but there's a big backstory to that, right?
Okay.
So this was 2000, this was 21 election, 2021, and it was the mayor for mayor in Albany, New York, where I'm from. My family's been doing business in Albany for 80 years this year, and 5 years ago, I really started covering the violence on our block. Now, the block where our business is actually named after us. It was renamed, and we take a lot of pride. That neighborhood was the wealthy part of Albany when my grandfather started in 1943. My grandfather came from Sicily, Italy, had a couple of businesses, and then, started that in 1943. So
Yeah.
now the past 5 years, though, well, it's been a little bit longer than that, but I started covering 5 years ago. So I've been around gunshots, murders, drug deals, all of that. And
Jeez.
and 5 years ago, this year, in January of 2018, the first murder in Albany, New York, occurred in front of our business, and it was a drive-by. And at that point, I was on the road too. I can't remember where I was on the road for a show, but I said, "That's it, Dad. I'm gonna." I always get permission, right, from my dad. I go, "Dad, are you okay if I want to email the mayor? I want to sit down. How can we be, how can we be more involved?" And we are involved before this. Maybe we could bring some ideas to them and help as a partnership. So here's the thing that pissed me off right from the get-go, though. There's some stuff, and I'm working on the book, but I emailed a very nice email because I extend an olive branch. I've never, even through the campaign, Madison, I never hit below the belt. I didn't have to. I just called out facts. Don't call names, any of that bullshit. So I wrote an email. 3 months went by. I didn't get a response. So I said, that's weird. So that kind of irked me because we're talking life and death. This is not just the politics. So I got my film crew friends together, and we started documenting with videos, and I started doing interviews with people. Well, that took wind, and that portion gained regional exposure, and then it started picking up nationally. So since the past 5 years, if something had come up on the block, I would cover it, and I would put out these videos. I'd interview the cops. Everyone started trusting me because we have a trusting business. And also, I'm not in politics. All I'm doing is just stating the facts. And it's really important to remember that if you just stick to message, it's the same thing with comedy. You start going too far off the script and improv, it's hard to get back. I've seen people struggle with that. So as much as they want to bait you in politics, just state a message. So fast forward to 2020, when all the shit's going down in the world, the mayor in Albany, who these people are godless people, and I can't say all of them. I can't say all of them because that's unfair in any business. But I'll say 98% of them are, and they truly don't care. And I'll prove it when they'll put party over people. So in 2020 in August, this mayor had said, if you're hit by a stray bullet and it's not intended for you, but it's intended for the person that you're with, you're just in the wrong place at the wrong time, end quote. And I said, okay, That's it.
Oh my gosh.
So, and no one called the bullshit out. See, that's another problem we have in media, especially in Albany, is such sophomoric. There's no one with backbone to call people out, and it's just a shame. So I asked my dad, I said, "Are you okay if I do this?"
Yeah.
He gave me his blessing. I took a year and a half off of my career. So no less so I go through COVID and lose a year of work. And then I take another year and a half off. I get a great team together of local and national advisors, great PR firm that does this throughout the state, that works like with past governors that are my friends. And now here's the thing. I've been an independent since I was 18, right? So as we know, New York is a very blue state, and Albany is a very blue city. So the Dems and Republicans and conservatives wanted to endorse me. And I respectfully declined. I said, no, I'm going to stay as an independent, come hell or high water, if I'm the victor or not. I said, because I'm not going to be, I'm just not going to, I have to come out being authentic.
Yeah.
So, and if I waver, they try to bait you on everything. They try to flip flop. And I'm like, I don't care. This is about people over party. So I stayed with it, and I hit the streets. And you know, to this is where the system's like rigged, because they don't want ordinary people, successful independents, getting involved, because the Democrats and Republicans have about 5 to 6 weeks lead time on you to go out and get signatures to get on the ballot.
I've heard that. I had a friend that ran for mayor in New York, and it was
oh, is that right?
City, and it was the same thing. And he had raised all this money, and somebody didn't submit his signatures properly.
Oh, well, see, I took this on a 24/7 job. So I not only had great advisors in a PR firm, I managed my campaign. I took care of, I had an accountant. You have to have that separate. And I oversaw everything. And that's another thing. When you ever hear these people, like Governor Hochul is the worst in New York State. She's a horrible person. And I will say that on record. These people are going to do to me.
Right, yeah.
But these people say, oh, I went to a fundraiser. I didn't know this person donated to me or that. Really? I knew everyone that donated to me. I called everyone. Every time anyone donated, I called and thanked them.
That's
so
great.
Long story short, a year and a half goes by. During my campaign, okay, it was May of 2021. I'm in my office. I moved right into the worst section in Albany, purposely. We have two apartments above our business. I moved right in, and it looks over the troubled corner. And so in May of 21, my windows are open. It's a beautiful day. I hear gunshots. I've heard gunshots numerous times in my life. And I went running down with 911 on the phone already. And the dispatch knows who I am. I'm like, you know, you got gunshots here on our corner. I kept going. And I said, you got a man down. Don't do what I did. I run to bullets. I toured them. I've done that for the past 5 years. I don't recommend anyone doing that.
No, gosh.
No, don't do that. I do it because I feel for people. So I went running, and I'm one of the first 3 or 4 people there at this drive-by. And it was the neighbor who works at the store. I was just coming back from daily mosque, and he was just innocent drive-by, and I watched him die in front of me. That's a horrible thing to see. And now this is where I get pissed off, though, because this happens in like Chicago and a bunch of cities.
Yeah.
These elected officials have no humility, okay? And the human condition wants to forgive and give the benefit of the doubt. They will not even acknowledge the shit that is going on in their own city.
I know.
They'll always say, well, it's happening in other places too. Well, I don't care about the other places. I care about the city we're living in.
Yeah.
None of those officials had come up. They don't talk to residents. The council members don't. Because when you get involved like I have the past 5 years, and like I said, I've always extended the olive branch. Anyone watching this, you can go back and trace my trail for 5 years. I don't hit below the belt. I will call them out.
Yeah.
When they're not there. They will not come up and talk. They have no humility to say, you know what, we can't be anywhere or everywhere all the time, which I respect. I get that everyone's busy, but if you don't, within the first 48 hours, come up and talk to residents, plus business owners, that have been there 80 years,
Yeah.
you have no respect. You don't. And so long story short, I ran and I gained 17% of the votes. I wasn't the victor, but the first time candidates get between 2 and 3%, and getting 17%, I was very happy with that. The thing that happens though in off national elections, right? And this is another trick of their trade. They do that intentionally to keep you mindful on national of the shit you have no control over. And then the smoke and mirrors is so they scoop people in locally. Okay. And that's where your tax dollars and your energy can really make a change. But people don't do that. So they do those in opposite years for that reason. Also, a big thing is apathy. So when Albany is a small city, it's honestly, it's only 98,000 people in the city.
Wow.
The suburbs, though, there's 1 million people in the capital region. Okay. So there's 53,000 registered voters in Albany and less than 14,000 voted. So whenever you hear about apathy and people don't give a shit, yeah, they don't, because these officials don't care. That's why I'm a huge proponent of term limits, which I doubt we'll ever see. Because honestly,
it would make such a difference. Oh my gosh.
It would, because think about it, Madison. You're a smart young lady, and then you get fired up about issues. If you saw something and you said, you know what? If there's term limits, maybe I can, donate 2, 4, or 6 years of my life to a cause in my hometown that I feel is valid. You would get more people like us to come out. And now you just see it drifting further apart because no one wants to get involved because they're all.
Well, it's a dirty game, and I think everybody
They're
knows
dirtbags.
that on both sides. It's like it is true. It's almost like, and I don't want to speak for everybody because it's not fair, but
Correct.
the majority, to be a politician, you have to kind of be a godless soul.
Yeah.
Because of the shit you're going to be exposed to and the stuff you have to do. A normal high moral person would say no, but they're so controlled and crooked, and it's they want the power, not what's best for the people.
That's correct. Yeah.
And that's why it's like all these politicians are just, I mean, if somebody says I'm a politician, I'll be like, there's the door. Out of my party. Out of my party. Out of my party. Now.
Get out of my party. Get out.
Get out.
Yeah.
No, I don't care what side you're on. I'm out.
Yeah. And well, see, that's what vexed them, because they couldn't figure me out because I stayed authentic. I said up front, I said it's all the newspapers and the media. I said, don't expect me to come swinging and call names and do that. I said, I am here for the people. If you want, I invited you get press conferences and all that and interviews. You have to meet with all the unions. They'll ask, where do you want to meet and talk? You're coming down to my headquarters. I want you to see what the news isn't showing.
Yeah.
And this is the, poverty rate. And then, there's a big illusion to where people, you hear about in the inner cities. And I'm talking white, black, Asian, Puerto Rican. There's cops and brutality, and we don't want cops. I've never heard that once. Most people in the inner cities want more police. There were beat cops on our streets up until 7 years ago. They just did away with them because the Albany Police Department is down 100 cops. 100. No one wants the job. They're all demoralized.
Absolutely. Of course. Like, why would you want that? You risk your life. The pay's not that great. Why?
Yeah, and it's a shame because there's so many good people. And that's the thing. Like, I stay positive. I'm an optimist. I don't have one regret. People would say, do you regret taking 1.5 years off of your life to do this? No, I don't, because I met a lot of great people I probably wouldn't have met. I got reacquainted with people I haven't seen in years. And also, if you owned a business, if it was, even if it was Madison's lounge and you saw all this stuff happen in front, I know you're going to be vocal. I know you are. So, I just think my situation was definitely different because we've been there that long, and it's how much can you take? And they want you not to speak up. That's the thing. They want everyone to be quiet, and I don't understand that.
And that's the question. It's how did the media in all cities and towns, it feels like now, become so one-sided and kind of biased?
Well,
Is
they're
it Project Mockingbird from 1960? I don't know.
It
But
could be.
it's really crazy. It's like, how about you just present the facts like you're
Mhm.
supposed to,
Right.
and then let people make a critical decision for themselves. We're lacking a lot of critical thinking, or people that do think critical are saying, well, I don't want to be canceled, so I can't say anything. So I've got to live
Yeah.
in this box. And it's like, how did it become so crazy? It's just it blows my mind, because I know our founding fathers did not intend for this to happen. It's like, where did it go so wrong? I wish I could pinpoint that exact moment.
It's a good question. And in my experience is, look, before our time, when we were growing up, even, there was a certain respect of media. And I have friends in literally, one of my friends is the chief White House correspondent for CBS in the White House.
Mm-hmm.
And he is very, very in the middle. He just wants the truth. And Ed O'Keefe,
As every journalist should have. I
as
think it should be a rule
yep.
that you cannot be a journalist if you have chosen a political party. You have to be independent. I think that would change the game.
That
the
would change
CIA does not want that.
No, they certainly don't. But even if they do have a side chosen, whatever. And you know what? In my opinion, and I'm just an independent, so I'm very Switzerland. I like communication. I like people coming together. I invite people, even people that were against my campaign. I mean, they hurl so much stuff at you, and you go to offer to meet with them, Madison. Like, I'll meet with you any way you want, Zoom, in person, phone, and they all go away. So they don't. They're keyboard warriors, right? So
trolls, yeah,
they're just trolls. And for 2 weeks, when I announced, I took grenades and missiles, people just coming at me until they got to know me. After 2 weeks, no one said boo.
So how did you stay mentally strong? Because that much criticism and hate can break a person down pretty quickly. I don't care how strong you are. It can start to really break at you.
Sure. So what I did was, I pray a lot. I have you have to have a supportive system. And I've got that with family and friends. And furthermore, I had to get rest because it is a 24/7 hour job. I mean, it was constantly every day. Like I said, after 2 weeks, it went away, because when people see what they want is they want to get you on something. And what I said to everyone is, I said this: you can say, oh, he's just a comedian, but you're taking away a college education. You're taking away our family business education. You're taking away my, I do mission trips around the world. What I do for community through my parish in my hometown. It's what I do for fundraising. I've helped raise hundreds of thousands of dollars for various charities. I'm on board. I'm a board member on charities.
Yeah.
And I don't have a record. So when I said that publicly to everyone, I said, I invite you to look into my past and find something. It's okay. Go ahead. I'm just letting you know I'm very careful of what I say. Not in the way of I'm afraid to speak my mind. It's I only stick to facts. So I don't go out on a limb and be like, oh, I can talk about this because I read something once, but I don't know it.
Yeah.
And that really irks people. And so just to stay strong, I will say this: those first 2 weeks, when I mean, you had these awful people just hurling stuff at me that was completely erroneous.
Oh my gosh.
I literally had to call my top advisor, and I was shaken. I can admit that. And I was shaken.
I would be too.
He said, don't worry. He goes, number one, I told you it was going to be like that. Number two, they've got nothing on you. And then
so you've never sent any like dick pics or anything?
Well, I mean, I can't. What? I have a bad connection here. What happened?
Yeah.
No, I'm very. No, it's. I'm just conscious of it in the way they tried to get me on stuff I said literally in 2011 in a comedy act. Like they start
what
making
from like a YouTube video?
Yeah.
Wow.
No, actually, this was a written piece for the Hearst newspaper in the Albany area that they had me do, and they gave There was no problems in 2011, but all these people start nitpicking, and then they say you're a racist, homophobe, this,
Oh
that,
my
and the other thing.
gosh.
Oh yeah, and then I know. See, I'm smart about stuff now, because when in 2011, what I did was I saved all this material, which I still have on my laptop, and I saved all the comments. So when people were just saying this, and I would follow this trail, or people would pick it out, they'd point out and say, hey, this person's saying this, and we know it's wrong. All I would do is and I'm very polite as a person anyway, I would just say, hey, I appreciate you, your voice, but you're not telling your audience the other half. So what I would do is I would say, well, here are the comments from it. This is what was actually said. And they all went silent.
Yeah. They just want to stir the pot. People like to stir the pot to feel they've got some sort of power. It's just so sad.
It is sad, because they won't take the risk to get involved in no matter what it is, their own life, their kids' life, their public life. And also and like I said, though, I was a very different, unique situation now, because of our family's business. And I think anyone would do that. I think anyone would really stand up for family. And then you inevitably get the questions of, are you going to run again? You've got this great message. And then I know, I wouldn't, especially not in Albany, because there's too much apathy. That city, for the capital of New York State, if people live in New York and don't understand what's in Albany, it's sad. It's a dirty city, that doesn't need to be. And you would think the governor, even back to Cuomo, these guys spend time here.
Yeah.
And it just proves that they're just about the party. Because you mean you can't come out as a governor and see the streets and be like, hey, you know what? We're not perfect. We're fallible elected officials to the people, but y'all got to clean this shit up. Okay. This is the cap. No one says that, because they're more interested in the party than the people. And I'd be glad to speak to anyone in lengths on that if they're watching and say, I disagree with that, which I would welcome. I would love to hear their point of view, because, and I would give them a field trip in our neighborhood, because we have the cleanest block. I'll put our block up to the cleanest in the entire city. We sweep it twice a day. And, the thing is, see, I'm very proactive. So, and I wrote about this, a post earlier, in January of 2023, to commemorate the 5-year anniversary of me getting involved. Since then, in the past 5 years, I've formed a good relationship with the code and compliance people. I've had 6 buildings taken down around our block, 6 vacant buildings. And that's how you start. It's piece by piece. It's block by block.
Oh, exactly.
And I also help with the police liaison program. So I walk cadets through the neighborhood, introduce them to people, get them the feel of the land, and do what I can do to help. Because I think there is a huge element to where you can be more effective from the outside, because the inside, it's insulated by people literally just by what you all want to believe, and they acquiesce.
Yeah.
And I understood that going in. I knew that I would have to make hard decisions. I know it's not going to please everybody, but the thing that I promised, and I did promise these things because I had control over it. I will have a weekly radio show where you could have callers come in. And I'd rather take calls. And I would be out. I had this great system to where I'd be out in the street. I had this great, I won't give it away unless I do it again, or I help someone else out with a city component, but this really great thing on communication, because that's what irked me. And you know what I found throughout New York, Madison, is when you're talking with people, and some of these people are great. They invite you into their homes. They offer you meals or drinks. And as an Italian Irish Catholic, I love that. And it's like, great. All right, Greg, it's been 3 hours. You got to leave. I'm like, wait. All these people had serious communications with the city of Albany. They couldn't get through. Some people, it took 9 months for a city to get back, department to get back to them. 9 months, this one gentleman. And I
feel like people in the government don't work.
Oh, they don't. Well,
they don't. They're like, oh, lunch break. And you're like, no. There's the world is falling apart. There's no lunch break. You eat at your desk, like most people have to do.
See, I agree with that, because when I now I understand everyone has a busy schedule. When I first met with the mayor in 2018 with my dad after that murder, I said, why didn't you come up? Oh, first of all, and she said, this is all on tape, by the way. She said, they lost my email when I initially sent it in 2018, to which my retort was, well, if you're losing an email, what else is being lost at City Hall? Because these are people's lives. I'm not talking about something irrelevant or mundane. Not that every issue is that way, but this is life or death.
Yeah.
And it's and I said to the mayor, I respect your position. I understand it's busy. Okay. But you have councilmen, and the councilmen aren't even coming up. And it's all because they have no humility, because they can't take the fact that a person or a business disagrees with them because they're Democrats. And I said, but you're Democrats. It's craps. You're literally a bunch of jokers. If you want to see the best comedy club in the United States, come to Albany and it's right there. It's the Capitol, and City Hall is the best comedy club in the United States.
And they don't even know it. So that leads me to a question, in your opinion, because you've worked in this, you've put yourself into the swamp. How do these people actually get elected? Where do they find them, and how do they run? How do they get elected? Like some of these mayors, I'm like, where did you come from, and how did you make it?
Well, that's all right. So
what's going on?
So there's a lot of things. So like the current mayor of Albany is originally from Chicago, who was a Republican in Saratoga and now is a Democrat in Albany. So
okay, so they switch to get the votes.
Yeah, they'll do that. They'll acquiesce. Oh, this person's got this. They might be independently wealthy, but it's like they can't get out of their own way, and that's where they're failing an open book test. And you're also dealing with apathy. Okay. So just like when I gave those stats about how many people voted, you're dealing with when you don't vote, or some people say, oh, my vote doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It does matter. So that's what happens. You've got apathy. So that's how these people are getting reelected. And there's also people driving. Look, everyone knows the business. The jig is up past COVID on so many things in this world. And one of them is politics.
Thank
the jig
God.
is up. The jig is up.
COVID was a blessing in that way.
In that way, because there's always people behind the scenes pulling the strings to line their own pockets. That's just the nature of that business. So when I have, and in the past, actually 2 months, people have brought up similar questions to me around the holidays. And they said, I said, these people are corrupt. And they said, well, how can you prove corruption if their money lines up? And I said, oh, no. These people are corrupt in the heart. They're corrupt in the heart, because everyone goes in for a good reason, but they get corrupt by the system. That's why I really feel what would right this ship in our country is term limits. I really, really do believe that.
But the problem is the people that are voting on this are the people that want to stay there and be career politicians. And the problem too is that they get like forever pay. I'm like, no, that doesn't work. You need to be paid like the citizens. You donate to a retirement fund, and then when you're 65, you can take that. Like it needs to be fair. Like it has to be a fair system. Stop with the insider trading. Stop with this. And this is not a political segment, so don't come at us with your comments. It's a fair segment. It's a independent segment. Why are there people suffering on the streets, working 2 jobs, and this politician's barely working and has guaranteed pay when all they have to do is put 2 years in? Well, how is that fair?
Yeah,
let's just make it fair. Let's just level the playing field. So the term limits, the insider trading, all that stuff, you know?
Yeah. And it's true. It was something that you just said about with pay. It just slipped my mind. Just as what I was about to say.
Like you put in 2 years, if you're 2 years about, then you get your full pay, I believe, for till death.
Yeah, there might be different stipulations that I can't
maybe that's
answer
like
honestly.
If you're like in the house or
that could be bigger. It usually in local it's not that much.
I'm gonna say we're bankrupt ourselves that way, but
we are.
It's just so crazy that these people can't balance a checkbook. They're supposed to be smart. These people are not smart. But the thing is, the smart people, like you and I, we don't want to be in it, because we don't want to get our hearts morally corrupt.
Right. Well, that's
so people are staying out of it now.
They are. And this is what they want. They want people not to be involved unless you're going to go their way. And it
compromised, right?
makes
I have a theory about that. I'm never going to say it out loud, but I have a theory of how you compromise these people.
Yeah,
and
it could
I think they're all compromised. And
yeah.
so I do feel for there probably are people in Washington who don't think like anything that comes out of their mouth, but they're stuck and they're controlled by this person that's so high up we've never seen them before, and they have to do what they're said, and they probably can't sleep at night. And I know that that's going on. And then there's people that aren't as controlled, but or are they? We just don't know. But the thing is, I want to send a message to all the politicians. I don't think any of them listen to this podcast, but maybe they'll start. Just remember, your life on this earth is short. Your life when you die is a lot longer. And your actions here, whether they're seen or unseen, will determine your life afterwards. So act accordingly. That's my PSA.
Amen to that, right?
Right.
Well, see, that's a really good point, because throughout the campaign, I said, look, we're human and we're fallible. But, what I could never understand, and when I was talking with people out in the streets or meetings or wherever, is if you just admit your mistake, you could do a 180. But what happens is these people just bury a lie with another lie and another lie and another lie. You don't have to do that. You don't, because, and even up until the day, okay, that people will ask me, if there's a problem or concern on the street, and there was a sort of one yesterday. Okay. There were some shots fired just a couple blocks over, and it bled over toward us. They're like, why are you the only one that's ever here? I'm like, well, we have a business and I care. And I'll listen. And they know that. Even the drug dealers know who I am. They do. And even, and it's just, and they're fine. And you know what? Here's the deal. I tell them I won't even interfere in your business. I don't agree with it. I said, but don't sell on our property and don't sell the kids. Because if I see that,
they probably respect that.
I think they do, because they're like, who's this crazy white guy? And then they realize, look, they've been here for a while. But I'm just a huge believer in, you've got to stand up for what you believe in, and know the consequences, because look, history teaches us that people who speak their mind, Jesus murdered, Kennedy murdered, Gandhi murdered, Martin Luther King murdered.
Yeah, I was gonna say he was a big one too. Yeah,
it's but you speak about the afterlife or just prayer. What am I not supposed to do? I'm not supposed to stand up for my family and my father, especially.
You are supposed to do that, because
correct.
That's the right thing, right? Yeah. But you're not supposed to, make people's lives worse for your own personal gain. That's the sin, and that's what I think they're doing. That's the ultimate sin right there.
That is a sin. 100%.
You should make your life better and make as much money as you want. I'm the ultimate capitalist. I love capitalism. Okay. But like, if you are ruining people's lives to get rich, something is wrong with you. You should be getting rich by bettering people's lives.
Correct. And there needs to be accountability for that. Because if you want to work for Wall Street and make $1 billion, that's fine.
Yeah.
But politicians shouldn't be able to make it clean. But politicians shouldn't be able to do that.
No, you're a public servant. You chose to go into a service that doesn't make you billions and billions of dollars. And then all of a sudden they're coming out super wealthy, and it's like, hold up a second.
Yeah. Well, it also jumps back to something that you brought up earlier about how these people get in, and the media. I could tell you the media in Albany is very slanted. It's op-ed. It's sophomoric at best. No one wants to do the work anymore. I mean, look at news. Look at, I don't watch local news, by the way. It's been 15 years. I have not watched a full newscast in 15 years.
It's so boring, local news.
It's boring. It's like,
although if you want me on, I'll come on.
Which I have been on with a message. It's a message, of community message, but they don't even want that. It's like fluff. a lot of it is fluff. And it's like, people have asked me, you don't watch the news? What am I supposed to do about it when something happens? Am I supposed to have control? I don't have control over.
It's depressing is what
it is.
It is
Depressing. But they're very, at least in New York and in Albany, I can say pretty certainly that they will just acquiesce and push a message to what the capital, they think the capital region needs. And they impugn the intelligence. All these politicians, and I shouldn't say all, most of them, and the local or media in general, they impugn the knowledge of the reader or viewer. They think they know better. I'm like, no, they don't. And this is the one thing I try to tell people, because we've been in the business. Everything you see on TV, everything is scripted.
Yeah, and we know that better than anyways. Even the news is Hollywood these days.
It is. Well,
everybody loves a good. It's like they have to do you have to do the spin, right? Like I create a lot of kind of reality concepts, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm always, when I'm going through, I'm like, where can I up the conflict? There's a conflict in the resolution. They're just doing that with real stories.
They are.
And it's all just a spin. What can make a new story? It's the fear. Fear gets you tuning in, which is why, remember our friend Jay Nog?
Yeah.
So Jay did this thing. I was in it. It was like 2015, where he was doing this sketch called Positive News. And
He's
it was
up from the area I'm from.
Oh, is he nice? And it was all this positive stuff, and it was great. And you think like, oh, this would be so cool. But the reason it doesn't exist is nobody would tune in.
Yep.
Which is so sad. I'm like, I want to hear about like somebody like making money and somebody like saving somebody and somebody curing cancer. Like that's
no, they don't. They want drama because they feel connected with that. Because they feel it. Here's my example of that. Because it's too close to home. All right. Because it's hard to change a human. It's hard to, you got to dig deep. So here's my example with that. You've got the Ukraine. Okay. Now, look, I go to daily mass. I don't impose my religion on anybody. It's just something that I need.
Yeah.
I'm not perfect, but it balances me. So you got the Ukraine. I don't want people to die. I've sent money and prayed that it helps families. All right. That's what our church did. I did it once and that's it. Okay. Here's why. The country, remember, before COVID and New York State, I know you're out there in beautiful Colorado now, but it was broke. We were broke. You can't find anything for the arts, education, war on drugs has been going on for 40 years, nothing. Okay. And then COVID hits. They're just printing money. All of a sudden, there's this concern. It's an awful conflict. That's a horrible thing that's happening over there. I agree.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. It's talk about, people not caring about humanity. That's just sad. And I have neighbors that their families, they have family members over there. But all of a sudden we're broke, but here's 40 billion to the Ukraine.
I know.
Okay, so
and we have all these migrants that can't find housing and that are here, and it's just it's.
How about this? If you were going to do that, why don't you give? Then, if you got 40 billion, you could probably get maybe 10 more billion. Give $1 billion to each state in the U.S. and try to right the ship. But see, this is what they don't want, because America is a narcotic government. It gives. It's a candy bar to a kid after school, and once you don't get it, they don't want you to pick up a pitchfork and try to overrun the government anymore. So they keep feeding you. Yeah. So when you think about this with the Ukraine, okay, they pulled on the heartstrings of everybody. Buy a Ukraine flag, support the Ukraine. Everyone's got this stuff up. Okay. Which I don't want any harm over on the Ukrainian people. And I really don't want harm on the Russian innocent people either that have no choice, no choice.
Yeah, I know. Exactly.
And no one talks about that either. I'm like, these people have no choice too. So because it becomes a billionaire's world. Then, but you'll never see, you got the Ukraine, but you'll never see, at least I haven't, you'll never see people with, hey, save Albany or save Chicago flag in their window. Why? Because it's optics. It's the same thing when you break it down locally. It's happening in the Ukraine. They can't see where the money is going. No one knows where that's going. No one knows where it's going.
I know. I wish you could have a balance sheet, but God forbid we ask for that.
Yeah, right. That's not going to happen. And then,
because you want it to go to the people that need it, that are suffering. But I have a feeling it's probably going to people's personal pockets. It's
I
corruption
hope
through
not.
and through of the whole
It
world.
is. It is, and it's been going on for a long time. And the thing is the dismount of the story and the example that I give is this. It's like it's optics. You don't see it. You won't get involved in your own hometown. Your own hometown. You won't until it comes knocking on your doorstep. That's when it comes to your doorstep. That's when people get involved. And that is what, talk about time. You just mentioned our time is fragile. It's short on life. You got people that say, oh, I wish I'd done that. Or I wish I had seen Bill. I wish I'd take, what are you waiting for? To wish your life away? You've got to do it. I don't understand when people say, let me give you an example though about my campaign, and people, hear that saying like my vote doesn't matter, my signature doesn't matter. It does. And let me break this down. I wrote about this during the campaign too. When Cuomo was governor of New York during COVID, as an independent, I would have had to get 1,500 signatures. Remember, they had a 5-week lead on me. So you're going out to streets that either they signed already or they're not affiliated with politics at all. 1,500. Now, Cuomo lopped that in half because of COVID, because of getting out. So I said, okay, now I got a chance. Yeah. I got a chance. So I assembled a team just like the founding fathers. I mean, it was family members, friends. We were farmers with pitchforks. We're going out. I went out and I wound up getting, it was just over 900 signatures. Okay. And I needed the count was like 753. I think that was the exact count. So what happens is this, you get your signatures. Okay. You go out and then you have to wrap them how they need them wrapped and drop them off at the Board of Elections. And then from there, both parties, Republicans and Dems, look them over with a fine-tooth comb. Okay. And they try to kick signatures off because they want to keep you off the ballot.
Of course.
So I needed 753. They kicked off all these. I was getting stacks of paper in the mail from councilmen that don't want me on because they're just trying to act tough. Okay.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I got on after they kicked off 100 signatures, just over 100. Because when you're asking someone, hey, Madison, did you sign already? And you're like, no, but I already really did because you like the mayor or something. You'll sign again. And it screws me up, right? Because now I have to go out and find another one. I made it on the ballot by 2 signatures. Jeez. By 2. And I'll tell you something, that got them nervous because that was the first hurdle. Because once I did that, that's when the media came and they said, this guy's not joking around. I go, why would I be joking around?
Like what? Yeah. Why would you waste your time?
Why would I?
To take a job. You could make more money on the road doing comedy than you could working as a mayor in Albany.
A mayor pays $135,000 a year in Albany. Okay. And you get all the benefits on top of that.
So okay. It's not terrible. Yeah.
It's not terrible. I wasn't in it for the money. I wanted to do what was right. And someone that was from the area. I mean, it's a lot of carpetbaggers. It's a lot of carpetbaggers. And people love comfortability. So it gets back to the point, why can't we get these people out of office? They're afraid to take risks. They're afraid of change. That's why people just vote the same people in. Because, I don't want to do the work. Now, if you get someone else in that's going to hold you accountable on your life, now they're like, I got to take stock of my own life. Well, I'm not coming at you. It's not the Gestapo. Right. I just want a safer city in the region. Right. That's it. And one of my friends won the town supervisor in 2021. Okay, I had 2 friends running, and the one friend wound up winning. That is the largest economically sound area in the capital region, that in Saratoga, New York. And I had said to them, I talked to them throughout my election. I said, if I win, and they were rooting for me publicly, I said, I want this region better. We want to work together. I'm not afraid to be like, I'll pick up the phone. How did you guys do this? Or who'd you guys use here? Work together. They don't want that. It's all about these personal posses and these penny ante politics of grift and graft. It makes no sense. They cannot get out of their own way. So that's the big dismount is would I run again? You know, like I said before,
Yeah.
probably not. I've been approached by other parts of the state and other divisions like Senate and stuff, but no, I think I'll help from the outside and just keep everyone in my prayers. So it's really
Right.
I don't want to discourage anyone from getting involved. Do it.
It sounds like a terrible thing. My God, I've sent too many booby photos in my life. Although I do like them, so I think like it would help me. I would be like, bring it on. You know what I mean?
Well,
I'm gonna pull a Kim Kardashian, except I don't have a sex tape. I just need to find a sex tape, and then boom, I'm running her office. I can't believe it got released.
Well, you know, I had literally joked about that during the campaign. I said, I think for me to get, because what happens is this, I was getting a lot of media attention the past 5 years when there was violence because the media trusted me. Yeah. They would come to me. Then when you get involved, some of them retracted, except just two. Two were very, very, very good to me. They were very Switzerland and neutral, but everyone will retract. And I said to them, I said, you know what would probably help me win? If I had a criminal record. So they really, you know, I'm 48 years old. And you look at, I've worked hard in my career. I'm thankful for family structure. I'm not perfect. I know people don't like me. I must have pissed people off before. I've been on both sides of that fence. I try to make amends. But I think this world does not want people, unless they're broken just like them, to get involved, because they don't, like I said, they don't have to have accountability for themselves and straighten their own lives. When I try to tell people, if you can write your own ship and dig deep and change at least one thing about your life, you never know what you're going to learn. And I bet you come out better on the other side than you think you might have, because of what, like you said before, fear is holding you back.
Yeah. And nobody's perfect. That doesn't exist, right? So everybody in their life has either been the recipient of something mean and also said something mean, done something they regret. But that's the whole thing of like growing pains and learning and lessons. And there's all things that we can all say as humans, like, I'm not proud of that. I wish I would have done this type thing. So we definitely need more forgiveness, more empathy. And also, like, I put it in my book because I thought it was so important. Like, when you are faced with a difficult decision that it maybe is right or wrong, or you're holding yourself back from something because you're afraid to speak up or something of that sort, just remember when you die and you get up to the sky, to heaven, and I've heard people who have said this, who have passed on and come back, they said that there is a life review. And I always say you should think about what you want that life review to be. Do you want it to be regret, fear, corruption, stealing, hurting? Or do you want it to be like, wow, I had a really good life. I impacted people. I had a positive change. I made mistakes, but here's where you learn from the mistake. Here's where you spoke up and it actually impacted people for the positive. So to all the politicians that will soon be listening to my podcast, or if they do, what do you want your life review to be? And start acting accordingly. But I don't just say that to all politicians, because there are some very good politicians. I say that to every human being listening. What do you want your life review to be? So if you're somebody who's afraid to start a business and walk away from that job that's making you miserable, is that what you want your life review to be? So use it to propel you forward. That would be my PSA.
I would. You know what? I'm Greg Aidala, and I approve Madison Malloy's PSA.
Could you imagine if I ran for office? I would be like, listen, we all need to be good people. We're not offended. People fuck up and make mistakes. If you're offended by it, let's talk about it, but let's not cancel people. That doesn't exist. Yeah. And if you got, and trust me, I've got a foul mouth and I'm a blue comic. And if you don't like it, well, go suck my, just kidding. Maybe I shouldn't run for office. Suck my dick that's in the top of my drawer.
Oh, brother.
It would be fun, right? It would be like,
it'd be a hoot.
It'd be like Legally Blonde if I ran. I would come in my curls and like all these pink suits and be like, all right, bitches, it is time to clean this shit up, because you guys are all corrupt.
well, that's, you know, exactly what And again, 98% of them, right? Because we can't say, right? It's the same thing in comics.
It's not fair
like,
to say all, exactly.
Right. It's not, because I know some people that are really trying to do some good. That
Yes.
really are. And a
I would
congressman
name
to
them,
boot.
but I don't want to be canceled. So
Well, you know what? There's no such. Here's the thing. There's no such thing.
right.
Canceled.
Somebody said you can only be canceled if you agree to it. So what happens to these people is that something will come out and then they get on, they're like, I'm so sorry, and blah, 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 like a little dog. And it's like, no, I'm not.
No.
I own it. And then you're going to have your own audience. There's the blessing in social media is that Hollywood kind of can't cancel you. You can go and launch on other platforms and your audience will find you. But the point of the matter is, if we are doing something to somebody because of a mistake that they made, God wants us to forgive. He forgives us. Why can't we forgive other people? And if you're trying to ruin somebody's livelihood, well, then shame on you.
Well, yeah, and a good point is, so here's the thing. Remember, a lot of these people, not all of them, not all.
Oh yeah, they don't have a heart.
They're godless. They are. They're godless, and they don't want to forgive. They're just like, no, I'm gonna get in there, and it's gonna be rough. And people will be fearful to get involved. Like in Albany to the day has the longest reign of any mayor in the history of Erastus Corning. He was 42 years as a mayor. Okay, it's the longest in the history of the country. All right, and they're like, you can't do that anymore. There was good and bad with that guy, but most of it, it's going to lead down to a path of. Rockefeller was a real tyrant. He was not good. He wasn't good for the state at all. He really wasn't.
Not a fan. He's kind of screwed up our education system too.
That's true. A lot. But what happens is think about it. Okay. Politics is Hollywood for ugly people. And I'm not talking so much the outer.
Oh my gosh, you just hit that on the freaking head.
Yeah, because it's the inside.
AOC, agree with her or not, she is hot.
Right, I'm saying on the inside.
On the inside, yeah, you're right.
on the inside, because I listen. Look, when AOC first came up, I'm like, okay, I'll give the benefit of the doubt.
She's cute.
Fine.
She's adorable.
I'll listen to her. I loved her verve. She's got moxie. She's got energy. But what happens is, I don't know about you, okay, but I've been on multiple national television shows. I've been in 25 commercials, been in film, hung out with the elite in music and in comedy, okay? Have pictures, all that stuff. When people come into like my office and they're like, well, where is all that stuff? Or, awards I've got. I have them all nice and neat, packed away because I accomplished it and I'm ready to move on. And what I find in politics is these people get a taste of what Hollywood feels like and they buy into it. So when I see these politicians like Schiff and AOC on TikTok and stuff, I'm like, what?
And McConnell, don't forget Mitch McConnell.
And McConnell, what are you doing? How about this? How about have a fireside chat, heart to heart, with your fucking family and your community? How about that? Just start there. Let's get back to basics of why the fuck you got involved. Excuse my language, but seriously, that's what fires me up. I'm like,
I know it's about the power and the clothes and all that stuff. I mean, there's so many times where I'm like, I need to run for office. If these people thought Trump was bad, you wait till Madison Malloy steps on the podium. I'm gonna be like, stop being a little bitch. Nobody cares. Okay, we're gonna fucking clean this shit up. And if you don't like my language, go fuck your. No, I'm just kidding. Oh, read my book. It's called Time to Light the Fuck Up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah.
It is time. Let's put our differences and our politics aside. Let's stop idolizing these people who couldn't get a job outside of the public sector and start looking at your neighbors and your friends. And even if they don't think exactly like you, know that that's exactly who you need to be having conversations with, because you're going to learn. You don't learn when you're surrounded by everybody who's very like-minded. That makes you feel comfortable, but it doesn't make you learn. So we need to encourage each other to have a conversation with a Republican, have a conversation with a Democrat. Let's bring them together. Instead of fighting, let's listen.
Yeah. Well, that's something you just said is you don't see too much of is, and I know my neighbors, like I rap with them. I'll pick up the phone in the nicer weather. We're hanging outside talking. Differences in where we agree. you need to talk. That's where you're going to get the real news. And it's
an understanding of why people think the way that they do, what happened in their life, what are their needs. People are going to vote for what's best for them. I remember when I was fired up over some election before, my brother said, the reality is people don't give a shit about the world. They just don't. They vote on, is my income going to be taxed high? Is my family going to be okay? Can I afford groceries? Other than that, I don't give a shit about anything else. I just care that my family's fine. And that's how the people are. So when you're fired up, like, these, like 99% of the people are like, I just care that my family's fine. I don't give a shit about anything else going on. I'm going to vote for what's best for me. And so, okay, great. Well, then if that's your voter base, how do we get that conversation going we can figure out what's best for the collective? You know what I mean?
Sure. Well,
we could go on and on.
Oh, we could go on
about this, and it's just crazy. But yes, and if you're a politician listening to this, we don't know you, so don't take it personal. And if you're a politician with a good heart, I'd love to have you on the show.
Get on the show and talk with Madison. It's like, I don't know. It was a good learning experience because you do learn a lot.
Oh yeah.
And I think where you have those conversations of what you pose that query is, you can't, DC is so out of the realm. You need to take focus in your home. And you got to stay in your community. They and people have to recognize this. Going back to how I feel it's a narcotic government is, though the country was not set up that way. The federal government is not supposed to help you out with everything. That's why we have independent states and elected officials. And now everything just goes, we can't, we don't know what to do. Let's just call the feds. We'll figure it out. That's what you're there for. You're only supposed to go to the feds if there's a serious emergency in your state. But now it's all bled in. Now it's created all these other issues. And on top of that, you have to create new laws for these issues. And now everyone wants their own individual law written for them, when this country was built up for the pursuit of happiness, not the guarantee of happiness.
Yeah, exactly. I've got news for you. Life ain't fair, but life is also what you make it.
Right. That's right.
And on that note, where can we find you, Greg?
Yes. Well, no, thanks. That was great. You can go to that'smytimeshow.com. So, we both are doing shows where we're having people, very interesting people that are affecting local communities and national, topics. And I love that. I love passionate people, positive. I love positive, passionate people that are really, really making a difference. Because it's hard. As you mentioned, you were talking with you and Jay, your show. I had a great show on radio. And then I went to this, forum with mine. We film it, and then, it's all done up nicely in post, because I have sponsors that are still with me. But honestly, Madison, and I was getting a lot of praise for my hour shows, commercial free, really, really great in-depth talks like this. People just want drama. It's hard to fire people up on like positivity and good stories. So I guess the reason I say that is just keep doing what you're doing. I'm going to keep doing what I do,
exactly. I just want people, I would say world peace, but that's so cheesy because nobody, the politicians definitely don't want that. But I would say
war
just
is
be
good
kind
business.
to each other. Just remember, every time you want to be an asshole, picture your life review. I think, and I've talked about it, I think the best way to live the best life you can is to have your mortality and your morality at the forefront of your mind. If you're thinking about your death in a positive way, like, wow, this can end at any moment, you're going to let go of the fear and take the chances. And also, wow, I could die at any moment. What is my life review going to look like? You're going to start making better decisions, being kinder, giving back, doing the things that you want to see in that life review. So I think thinking about your death, because it could happen at any time to any one of us, is a very positive thing to propel you forward.
I agree.
So that's mytime.com.
That's my time show. That's my time show.
That's mytimeshow.com. And then where can they follow you on social media?
Everything's at Greg Aidala, GreGaidala, as it's printed down there in the corner.
Okay, well, it's not showing. Oh, there it is right there.
Oh, there it is.
Okay, perfect. I'll make sure it's in the show notes.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, we'll put all that in there. So you guys, definitely check him out. follow him, go to one of his shows. Very funny. Hire him for one of your corporate events. And hopefully you'll see Greg and I on the road together doing public speaking as I'm trying to kind of gear out of comedy, but I'll still have my jokes in there.
Yep. Yeah. So, no, that is something that I really do well at. I truly feel 100%.
Yeah. Perfect. So we will talk about that. So, so thanks so much for being here. And thank you everyone that tuned in and continues to tune in. Don't forget to rate and review. It helps us so much. And we will see you next time to find out who's next.
Hey, your host here, Madison Malloy. Please make sure to subscribe to the show on all podcast platforms, and please rate and review us on iTunes and Spotify. Also, if you have any questions or comments, you can email us at contact@next2madison.com. I thank you again for listening. Bye.